Hi everybody, welcome to the Free Speech Zone. I'm Ian Conn. A lot of stuff happened this week, huh? Not even BattleBots related. Yeah. So, after the Black Lives Matter protester opened fire on the police in the crowd in Dallas, and after Nice, I suppose it's good that Obama took our BattleBots away for a week so we can actually have something else to talk about, because, BattleBots are something of a distraction. Not to mention Turkey, the attempted coup in Turkey, and the release of the papers concerning what actually happened and the involvement of Saudi Arabia regarding September 11. So it's been a big week. I guess we'll start with the idea of the Black Lives Matter retaliating against the police. There's been a lot of speculation about this being actually civil war, that this is how the civil war begins. I don't know. Call me skeptical. Civil wars, I don't know. I'm no expert in civil wars, but this doesn't seem like this is that. This is the occasional bit of a spat here, a spat there. Civil war would be the National Guard of some states at war with the National Guard and parts of the army the National Guard from other states and parts of the army and militias. That's what civil war looks like. I think here's some civil war in case you've missed it. Yeah, civil war. Now, I don't think that's what America looks like at this point. I think that perhaps in contrast to what America normally looks like, it looks like it's awful. But when you can compare it to Belgrade, to Basra, it doesn't look that bad. Anyway, that said, I am shocked that everybody's so damn shocked. That's probably the most shocking part, I think. How is everybody so bloody shocked about this? I mean, it's been coming for so long. It's a country where everybody has access to firearms, and it's seemingly the more villainous one's intent, the more firearms seem to fall into one's lap. Obviously, that's not the case. But everyone has access to firearms. The police have small arms that are very, very small. I mean, they're Glocks, probably, certainly semi-automatics, the bulk of them that American police would carry generally. That sort of a thing. But they're not rifles that they tend to have on them. They're not assault weapons, to use that term that the right is currently so angry about. Somebody who I pay a little bit of attention to, Stephen Crowder. He's a Christian and he loves his guns. He's a Second Amendment fundamentalist. And I understand that. People love their Second Amendment, But look, what did you think? What did you think would happen here? This was always going to end terribly badly, with lots of people getting shot. This was a movement that was calling for the death of all white people, seemingly. This kill all white people hashtag was doing the rounds among the Black Lives Matter supporters. It seems like it was the same group, at least by and large. One guy was even arrested for it. He's going on trial, I think, pretty soon. This kill all white people is a hashtag that, if it was reversed the other way, it'd be rare to actually find very many people who even believe that you should kill all black people. Never mind kill all white babies. If you found anyone who would say happily kill all black babies, that's a rare person these days. I mean, David Duke's still kicking around. I don't think he's calling for that. Kill all black babies? That's crazy talk. Eventually it's going to turn into kill the arm of the oppressor, kill the strong blue arm of the oppressor. Of course it was going to turn into some situation where a bunch of cops were going to get killed. Cops who are all corralled into a single location, ironically attempting to corral others. They themselves were, blocked in, which is a delicious irony that nobody seems to have noticed. But it was always going to happen. So we need to have a genuine and serious conversation about how policing works in America. I mean, it doesn't truly affect me, so it's not something I need to have the conversation about too much. But it seems like nobody wants to have these conversations, and the conversation is being blocked very strongly by Fourth Amendment fundamentalists. I think the Constitution is a wonderful document. Don't get me wrong, especially that First Amendment thing. It's great, but I don't know, man. The Fourth Amendment, search and seizure. Okay. The conversation needs to be, if you're free from search and seizure, maybe stopping people over tail lights being blown. Come on, you're just pissing around with the Fourth Amendment. You really are. If you believe in it, don't dick around with it. Safety because his tail light was out. Okay. That's bullshit. You know that's not why you stopped him. You don't stop people for their tail light. You don't give a shit if one of their tail lights is out. Not to mention, the only people who would leave their tail light out are poor people. Nobody who can afford to get someone else to drive their car to a dealership while they drive their own other car around for the day. They'll drive the Ferrari today. They'll drive the BMW today. Oh, it's raining. It's fine. I'll just put the top up. Like, these people aren't driving around with a busted taillight. They bring their car into service regularly, routinely. These items are replaced. They've got LEDs that last forever and ever in recent cars anyway. So we should, ideally, stop seeing most of these busted taillight stops. So that might go away. I mean, the big one that'll cause this entire thing to go away will be the driverless cars. Now, obviously, there's been a couple of other incidents there. There's been that gentleman died. One of the early Tesla enthusiasts was using the autopilot mode, and due to the low dynamic range of the front-facing camera, it seems, the car was unable to detect that a semi-trailer was crossing in front. A big white semi-trailer on a grey background sky. Looked like nothing was there. Fine, let's keep going. Yeah, decapitated apparently. Not a great way to go. Well, I mean, it's not a bad way to go, frankly. Straight off. Don't worry about it. Oh shit, my Tesla. Done. No worries. It's not bad. Yeah. But yeah, so we need to have a think about what's going to happen in the future. Obviously, with this driverless cars phenomenon, we're going to either see cars that are maintained so scrupulously because they're owned by other people that there'd be no reason for the police to stop them. So why would the police stop a car owned by Google that you just use by the hour or minute, like a taxi with no driver? Police wouldn't stop that. But the other side of the coin is Google owns the car. And I'm fairly certain it would be something like the driver or owner has to give permission. And if it's not currently that, they'll amend the law to make it that. The owner will by default give permission for any of its cars to be stopped and searched. So if Uber eventually acquires a bunch of driverless cars, which is no doubt the plan, there'll be just a fact that whenever the police go, yeah, that one, come in here, it'll stop and open up everything. Here, go for it, guys. Nothing to do with me. We want to stay legal, okay? We have no desire to protect you drug-dealing, hippie, murderous, pot-carrying scum in the back of this thing, all right? If they've done any kind of minor infraction that's any sort of technical or, malum in lex, then surely let them out. Get into it. But we're okay, right? We're Uber. We're Google. No problem. I mean, this is not even going to be a factor soon. So the future that a lot of people are predicting, and the one that I don't know if it'll come true or not, but it's certainly a possibility that cars won't be your own car. Whether or not people should, certainly in America, I'd be surprised if anything like that ever becomes so centralized. I mean, people will still want the freedom that comes with a car. I remember when I turned 17 and you get your license in New South Wales. You used to get your license in New South Wales when you turned 17. Well, you can go for it. And I went for mine on my 17th birthday, which was a Saturday. And then the RTA, it was called the Roads and Traffic Authority. It's something else now. Was open on Saturday mornings, and I booked about 6 weeks before, so I made sure and got the appointment. It was a whole thing. I had so much pressure. Anyway, the pressure was because if I got the license, me and my friends got to go on this camping trip together. And I was a pretty key driver in the whole procedure. I was the only one with a car with a tow bar. We had heaps of stuff and heaps of people to take. Yeah, if I didn't get the license, there was no time to schedule another test. So it was, there was a lot of pressure involved. But what it meant was freedom. I drove constantly. I drove my nan and my dad freaking bonkers, letting me drive everywhere. I didn't get to drive for a moment that I was around because I was like, well, I am getting this license the very tick of the clock that I can. And I'd only been 17 for probably 9 or 10 hours, I think, and I had my license. That rite of passage will soon be gone. Or at least it'll be grayed out and smeared. There won't be a a big stamp from the government that says you're an adult now and you can go wherever you want, essentially. You can't go and drink, but you know what? Drive yourself to work or to school and just, we know you'll get there. It's fine. There's no worries. You can operate machinery. It's fine. Yeah. Now it's going to be a matter of, Mum, I'm going to ring an Uber. All right, make sure you're back at 10. Where does adulthood begin? Where does the freedom begin? It's my car. I can take it when I like. I buy petrol and I go when I like. That's a hell of a piece of freedom. Also, it's my car. If the cops try to stop me, I can say no. It's unwise. Nobody's suggesting it's anything other than extremely unwise to say no. But it's your choice. You get that choice of 15 minutes of Bonnie and Clyde, or 2 minutes, depending on how quick the car is. You get to say, go fuck yourself. A friend of mine, who, obviously I can't claim this one, got into a motorbike chase with the cops once. And it was quite a spectacular event. He had to hide from a police helicopter for speeding past a highway patrol police car at a couple of 100 kilometers an hour. This is all about, this is nearly 20 years ago now, so I guess statute of limitations is hopefully over and any of that for my friend. But I simply chose to say no. I just simply said, nah, I don't have to stop for this. Nah, I can get away from this. I was on a GSX-R 750 at the time. He was on a GSX-R 750 at the time, and he could get away from this. And the whole point is that this is a choice that's going to be taken away as well. The choice of owning one's own car, the choice of, I'm going to go off into the yonder forever. I'm going to drive off this building, off this cliff and end it that way. That choice is going to get taken away from us as well. Don't get me wrong, it's probably a good choice to get taken off us. There are probably cleaner ways to do it, and ways that involve far less clean up to the environment, clean up of human remains for poor buggers down the bottom of a cliff, and just scuba divers and cranes and shit. You don't want to make the rest of society go through that. If you're going to kill yourself, just kill yourself in a civilized fashion. Like, there's a video for another day, but if we could just go to the chemist and go, yo, doc, nah, I'm done. Go to the doctor and say, hey, look, yeah, this whole pancreatic cancer thing, I've had enough of this. People would take that option, I think there's nothing terrible about that. But that's a video for another day. The point being that these are freedoms that will soon be gone. And with the advent of driverless cars, will also, the search and seizure stuff will soon be gone as well. So the broken taillight thing be a thing of the past. So I'm not sure how they're going to get around actually being able to stop people. So they're not going to be able to stop people to say, random breath test, sir, please blow into this until it beeps. None of that. No drug testing. Who are you going to drug test? The car? How are you going to stop people? So let's just put it this way. Let's say there was a situation where I could call a driverless car with my backpack filled with drug X, and take it from, I don't know, one part of the city to another part of the city. Now, this car is in perfect working order. It absolutely, there's no reason for the cops to stop me to test my license, to test the state of my inebriation, to test anything about any of that. The car it says Google all over it, and they've paid some blanket fee to have all their cars registered. Or it says Uber all over it. It'd be the same deal, let's say. Under what principle would they stop my car? How would they actually justify a search when considering the Fourth Amendment? I mean, obviously this is all up for grabs in a silly country like Australia without good old-fashioned amendment. Good old-fashioned constitution, like that actually, or a Bill of Rights is what I'm trying to say there. We have a constitution, obviously. This is a real question in America. How are you going to stop these guys? How are you going to stop things you don't want being transported? I don't know. You have to get warrants and search individual people based on intelligence. And I don't know. I guess that's probably how they get most of their bigger arrests anyway. It's not just stopping people and somebody smelled drugs. That's crap. Somebody told on you. The officer didn't just stop you for a broken tail light. I hope you all realise that. That's not why he stopped you. He's been following you for a while, and eventually he'll say you ran a red light. But if you've got a broken taillight, better. But eventually he'll say you broke the law. Okay, so that's why I stopped you. Oh, and then I smelled cocaine. Or no, he's not a sniffer dog. I smelled marijuana. It's all made up excuses. And then there was marijuana. Oh, look, see? You did run the red light. You did run the stop sign. You did have marijuana, and I was right the whole time. You bad guy. Somebody told on you, man. And he was following you for a reason. Most of the time, anyway. The whole point is that's all gone. That's all out the window. I'm not sure how they'll be stopping people. However, until that happens, we do have a serious conversation to have. The police, less so in Australia, but my experiences with Australia, and even in Australia, this applies. So even in a country where after the Port Arthur massacre, most of the guns, and I use the term most, and I don't actually have the numbers. Maybe most of the guns were bought back, and maybe it was not most. So don't quote me on that. I might look it up. It might already be written below. At some point, the cops in Australia, the unions, the police associations, if you like, best unions in town. The best unions in town don't call themselves unions. You notice that, right? The Australian College of Surgeons doesn't call itself a union. Teachers Federation. The Police Association. I mean, you could go a bit further and say the, Liberal Party, but that's not really the same thing at all. I guess it is. It's a business union in a way. But still, best unions don't call themselves unions. And the police union has managed to orchestrate a situation where, okay, when I was a kid, you never saw anyone have high-vis on. When I went to see my dad at work, and we'd go down the workshop, for whatever supplies he needed to steal to build a race car, nobody had high-vis on. They just had whatever dirty overalls were the easiest to wash for their wife, and that was how it was because, it was the 80s. And look, I'm all for it. If it stops people getting hurt, great, no problem. However, you cannot do this with police because it's not about a forklift accidentally. Oh, I didn't see him and I hit him and blah 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 blah. Or I didn't see there was a guy there, so I just put some more load on it. I didn't realize it'd be too much load. No, this is not about not seeing them. It's people who are harming cops. I mean, I don't, again, have the stats there, but I'm pretty sure that most of the injuries cops sustain are going to be injuries on the job, and certainly not injuries of not having been seen. Like the number of times I've heard of cops being hit by cars recently, it's been all deliberate stuff. It's not been, oops, didn't see that cop there. I mean, maybe it happened for a while and that's why they're all wearing the high vis now. But the point is, you cannot slap high vis on a cop and go, oh, well, there you go, there's that safety problem solved. We've just got the safest job in the world now, just like anybody else. And you look at the stats and the police union goes, oh, look, it looks like police are actually doing twice as dangerous, or a job that's twice as dangerous as say, an accountant, or police are doing twice as dangerous a job as a bricklayer. And bricklaying is actually quite dangerous due to the melanoma, stress, back injuries, and other falling injuries and injuries related to bricks falling on one. Okay. Let's have a talk about this. Cops have a dangerous job. Cops get to use force for all of us. In an ideal world, the way this is supposed to work is that all of the citizens gather a consensus about what the rules should be. Once they have that consensus, they write them down. Then we empower these terribly unlucky few to go and do this job of applying force when necessary in order to maintain this social order through the application of these rules that we've all agreed upon. Sadly, that is not how it works. There's entrenched powers. There's rules that none of us have agreed upon because they're older than we are. There's rules that we would change if we could, but for some reason, every time those rules get talked about, they don't ever manage to get changed. They just manage to get dicked around with. There's rules that if you understood them, you would be so angry that you would storm Parliament. You know, I don't endorse you doing that. I endorse you voting for a different candidate. Or running as one if you think you've got anything to say or anything to do for the nation. But, this idea that you could take a job like bricklaying and make it safe by having work-safe inspectors and high-vis outfits and making sure that ladder's up there properly, sir. There's not 3 points of attachment on it. And that's all good stuff. Because laying bricks does not involve anyone trying to hurt you. Ever. Unless something's going wrong or something is outside of bricklaying is occurring, then no one should be hurting you while you're laying bricks. Policing is the job where that is not the case. Policing is the job where if you execute the job perfectly, you will be using force against another man, another human. When you do that, they tend to fight back. Criminalizing it won't change that either. This idea that you can criminalize resisting arrest is, to me, just absurdity. It's like criminalizing flinching when someone's going to punch you. It's like criminalizing feeling sick in the guts when you get kicked in the nuts. It doesn't work that way. Criminalizing it will not change a thing. It's how some people, under certain circumstances, react. They try and get away, and they will kick at you, right? And they'll headbutt you. And then when you grab their head, they'll bite you. All that shit. They're getting put in a cage, man. Often over some trivial shit. Often over some shit that they are not sorry for because it's trivial bullshit. Okay, you find me with a pound of weed, man, I'm not sorry. Of course I'm not sorry for it. Of course I'm not going to go, oh shit, well, damn. Finally you caught me and I can stop living this horrible lie. I can stop molesting children. I can stop murdering prostitutes. I can stop doing all these horrible things and carrying pounds of weed around. No, carrying pounds of weed and murdering prostitutes and killing children, not all in the same category. There's two in one category and one in the different category. One in the totally harmless and doesn't damn matter, and one in the, yes, you should definitely stop doing that, and if you get caught, you probably, unless you're a total lost case, that should be your reaction. You know, hopefully you would go, oh, thank God somebody caught me and I can stop doing this horrible thing. If you catch me with weed, I'm not going to think that way. I'm not going to react that way. And nor are most people who you've caught with the prostitute dungeon or the kiddie porn tapes either. Most of those people are going to react like, hey, look, I've done nothing wrong here. This is perfectly right. Because they've justified it to themselves anyway, which you could argue I'm doing with the marijuana. But let's not go down that path. The point is that people often feel that what they've done is justified. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it in the first place. So people resist arrest because they don't feel that the system, in this case, that guy, has any right to restrain me and put me in a little box for doing the thing that I've already agreed to with myself was fine. Which brings me to my next concept. Banana policing. Why is it called banana policing, you might ask? Well, because they're yellow and they come in bunches. Did you ever see cops show up? They show up by the bucket load. You can't get a cop, but you can get 10 cops. Now, I'm not sure why that is. It could be that they think that they are more effective when they travel together. It could be that they think that the job they do really does require 10 people at a time. But they don't really think that. They know that they could show up with 2, but they'd have to get into a physical altercation more of the time. They don't want to get into a physical altercation, so they show up with 10 with capsicum spray out, and they just spray everyone down before any words are discussed. I was once attacked by a housemate, and I had my hands up over my face when the police came in. I called the police, and 3 of them had capsicum spray out, the big jars of the shit. I get watery eyes when someone cuts a capsicum in the kitchen of the house I live in. I don't think I would avoid anaphylaxis if sprayed in the face with that big shit capsicum spray, no pissing about bear mace crap. I don't want that. So basically, any cops out there, if you ever want me to completely comply, just wave us. You could wave a water sprayer with the words capsicum spray on it. And I would shit myself and stop doing exactly what you tell me. Because you know what? You shoot me, I've probably got some minutes because you shit shots and you're lucky to hit the center of the scene mass anyway. So you'll probably wing the shit out of me a couple of times. I'll get away with it with a limp. And you shoot me in the face with that crap, my fucking trachea will close up and I'll be dead before anyone can find fucking EpiPen, is my thought. So, yeah, I have absolutely no time for having capsicum spray waved at me for that reason. But yeah, there was, I won't go into the whole story, but let's just say that the gentleman grabbed at me, punched me from out of my sight as he grabbed at me. And then him and his mate proceeded to try and beat me up until my dog arrived and gave me a second to stand up. And yeah, there he is. God rest his soul. Fucking good fella he was too. Gave me a minute to get away from those fuckers. Anyway. He's the only reason I didn't get the shit kicked out of me that night. Anyway, when the police finally did arrive, after I talked my way mostly down from it all, I think it was 10 or 11. I remember counting on the night, but I can't remember it now. It was 10 years ago. But yeah, 10 or 11 police arrived. My van got stolen probably 6 years ago. 6 cops arrived for that. A guy at the front of my house once had a coffee mug chucked at his car. There were 4 cars arrived. Over nothing. No one got hurt. I mean, I get it. The first one, it could be a big domestic incident. It could be people with knives. Who knows? You know, like the one where it was the housemates fighting, myself included. But, I don't know. They do have guns and tasers and shit, you know, and they are strapping sort of young people most of the time. I mean, you know, teach them some jujitsu. I think it'd be probably cheaper to teach the cops you have jujitsu rather than sending twice as many. Call me crazy. A little bit more training, make each unit more effective, rather than just doubling the constant price of these units. But that is not what the union wants, is it? The union doesn't want half as many cops, each one twice as effective. No! The union wants buses of cops to show up, because the union, by definition, wants to be bigger. It's a thing that likes to represent more and more of the community, and the unions love power. Man, of course they want there to be more cops. Of course they want there to be more cops, because current cops have to be promoted. So it's a greater salary pool. So a greater percentage of that comes into the union as its budget. It's an Ouroboros. It eats its own damn tail. The point is, of course, the union wants more and more cops. Of course they do. Why would they not? So, yeah, it would make no sense otherwise. The trick with cops as well, they have a duty to be professional, which they so often aren't. The number of times they take things personally, they get upset, of course they're only humans. They have a difficult job. They have a terribly difficult job and a dangerous job, but they need to either make peace with that because they volunteered for that, and despite what all of the bullshit they've been told throughout their training, making it, you know, we'll make sure that, you know, we try and keep our members safe. Our members, we're not going to put them in harm's way. What? You're there to go in fucking harm's way. You're there to go in harm's way so we don't have to. You remember when we abrogated the use of force to you? Do you remember when we gave up our right to defend ourselves by pain of being put into cages ourselves, that it was supposed to be you who would come and intervene and be in harm's way? Because otherwise, I'm going to start sharpening a stick and have that around again and just get at it with pointy sticks, man. Because you know what? Pointy sticks are really fucking effective. Like crazy effective. You know, they've served us well throughout human history. And the thing about guns is they're shockingly ineffective at close range. I'm not suggesting anything in terms of actually harming anyone. I'm just saying, if your home were to be invaded, pointy sticks are not the end of the world, man. They're a really good idea to have laying around. Even blunt sticks. Blunt sticks, you don't have to kill them, you just got to knock them out. You just got to stop them, you know. Anyway. We've abrogated the responsibility of protecting ourselves to these blue clowns, who now will take 45 minutes, 2 hours to get somewhere because they've got to wait for 10 units to be available. How the hell does that work? Of course there are no units available for the next thing because there's 10 guys attending to the last thing. Like, this is triage 101. You can't just stay late all night. Obviously you have to, they are going to the more pressing cases and the people with guns waving them at, chocolate shops in Martin Place faster than they're going to the person who's saying, someone's stealing my bike. I get that. Equally, there's something in this that they need to go, look, before you join the police, do yourself and do us a favour. Don't be silly and expect that nothing will go wrong here. A bunch of fucking optimists is who they've got joining the police. Seems like. A bunch of people who, if they didn't know better, don't think that people will try and stop them arresting them. Like, they seem to have this, now mate, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing? Whoa. It's like, look. He's trying to get away. Because he doesn't want this. You're trying to put him in a cage. He doesn't want that. Anyway, that's fine. Okay. So if they need an excuse, they want to be able to stop people, and it's coming anyway, when the driverless cars finally come, / the cars that aren't your property. I mean, we're already looking at it with people who don't own houses and people who want to live closer and closer into transport hubs, and the number of people who don't own cars themselves anyway. So, I mean, there's a lot of, we see in Sydney with the sniffer dogs on public transport, the number of drugs they find on public transport is huge because, a lot of people with low socioeconomic status use drugs. And a lot of those people choose drugs over cars because the train's right there and the bus is right there. So why wouldn't you use the bus? I mean, I've known a lot of people who've brought a lot of stupid amounts of shit on buses and trains. Very good idea. Because it's not your car, And they don't have to get any sort of anything. It doesn't even have to, they don't need an excuse. They ask the bus driver, and the bus driver goes, yeah, open it up, have a look. So just let them stop people. I know it's difficult in America with the Fourth Amendment, but look, if they want to stop people so much, let's think about this from a car design point of view even. If they're going to stop people, why wouldn't we do something like have a place you can put your hands? Now, I do it this way because in Australia we drive on the right side. We drive on the left side of the road, but we're in the right side of the car when we drive. So I'm going to do it that way because it's more comfortable. It makes sense to me. Something where you put your hands outside of the vehicle like this until the cop comes, and a standard place where you keep your registration. And you just don't do anything. You just keep your hands there. You literally don't move them. Now, I know that sounds like the most horrifying police state situation in the world, but that sounds like the sort of thing that just makes sense. If these trigger-happy motherfuckers are ready to twitch, they're not very well trained, and they're really not very good under pressure on their own. They're terrified when there aren't 10 of them, because banana policing. So maybe, instead of them pointing their guns at people and freaking out, maybe people could take the initiative and go the other way. And I know it seems a lot like that scene in The Fifth Element, where this is a police control. Place your hands in the yellow circles, I think it is. I know it seems a lot like that, and it is. And that's horrifying to me. And it should be horrifying to all of you. But saves anyone getting shot. Saves any ambiguity. Even have something like, I know it'll be easily tampered with, so it's not a very good solution, but some situation where you can put your hands in 2 places on the car, or if you keep them on the wheel, there's 2 green lights go on in the back that shows the driver's got 2 hands on the wheel. I know you can tamper with that too easy. Put your dick in one hand on the wheel or something. I don't know. Some technological solution is begging. And by technological, I mean, systemic as well. Something based on just the way in which drivers being pulled over is done. So instead of pulling them over and then walking up to the car, maybe pull them over and pull over in front of them instead of behind them, or vice versa. Whatever you do, maybe, you see what I'm saying? Some procedural / systemic / technological means. is bound to present itself here in some fashion. I mean, even if you wanted to do something along the lines of just having a sunroof that people could stand up out of. Have that on all cars. I don't know. I know it's going to take 20, 30 years to phase in any sort of design changes in cars. And a lot of people are going to bitch and moan that, I don't want to have that on my car just so the cops can stop me. Yeah, well, okay. Then fine. So you're very happy with the number of people getting shot. But, and that will be the case. There'll be various people who will value various aspects of this differently to the others. But I think all of this comes back to the idea that everybody supports these cops. Well, large numbers of the people I've been listening to lately, at least, are supporting these cops going, they felt threatened. Yeah. Well, I can feel threatened by a toy poodle and kick it 40 feet. Now who's the asshole? When I kicked it, I'm not going to kick a toy poodle because I'm not a jackass. I don't feel threatened by them. But people do. I've had people threatened, people who don't like dogs, by my 5-month-old puppy when he was a lot less than 5 months. He was about 3 months once, and this woman nearly jumped in front of a bus because she freaked out by dogs. It doesn't matter how big they are. I think that's what we're seeing, you know. A lot of these people are freaked out. A lot of these cops are freaked out by black people, or freaked out, at least as much freaked out by poor people, freaked out by desperate people, freaked out by people who don't necessarily live by the same social mores they do. And they're freaking out. They're absolutely freaking out. This is, again, I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not saying the cops getting shot is a good thing. I'm just saying it's not surprising, okay? So, especially when it comes to things like drug crime and drug war. And this community hates your guts, coppers. You filthy copper scum. You've arrested everyone they know, virtually. You know, people will say, and it's true, it seems, they are committing more crimes. And it's a chicken and egg phenomenon as well for the other people who will say that. Equally, they are committing more crimes. What are the cops supposed to gonna do? Well, I mean, I have my solution. If I was a cop, I wouldn't show up for work the next day, because I'm not going to arrest someone who, through the circumstances they find themselves in, commits crime to save their damn family. I'm not going to do that. This is why they won't have me as a cop, and I wouldn't be one. And that's why I think more cops deserve more blame for what happens. If I didn't do it, someone would have done it. True. Perhaps, up to and including a point. Or perhaps if they can't find enough effing manpower for the cops, they'll just focus on the murders and the killings and the big stuff and leave all the bullshit alone that doesn't actually matter. Because if they can't find people who'll join while ever these laws are in place, like me, I'm not going to go and arrest someone for smoking a joint. No way! I just would never do that to another person. One, the hypocrisy of having smoked a joint recently and then going ahead and arresting someone for the exact same thing is beyond me. Even if I personally hadn't smoked a joint recently, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And I don't think there's any harm in it. So I couldn't enforce that law. I just wouldn't do it. And people would say, well, it's not up to them to enforce that law. To decide which laws they will and won't enforce. And I would say, well, then we need police on whom it is their responsibility, you know, on whom we can rely to take responsibility for which crimes they're prepared to find a warrant enough to put someone in a cage for. They've normalized this behavior of putting someone behind bars as though it's just reasonable and it's normal. They see it every day. And that's what happens to people. It's like when you're in an emergency department in a hospital and there's someone screaming in agony and everyone's like, oh, how was your weekend, love? Yeah, not bad, love. How was yours? Yeah, we went and saw that new Ghostbusters movie. Oh, yeah, it was really good. I liked the part where they had the thing and you know, and they're just ignoring it, talking about their fucking weekend. Because that's their life. Because they have to. Because how else are you going to get through that goddamn horror of people getting shot and dying and just Cops and nurses and doctors and everyone who works in emergency departments and around criminals. Anyone who has to be at work on a friggin' Friday and Saturday night, man. I know what it's like being at work on a Friday, Saturday night, being the only sober person in the damn place. Not as a cop, but I know how it is when not having to do such a nasty job as that, but having to do a job while everyone else is having fun. And then having to do that job? Oh, man. As I say, even if that job would have me, I wouldn't do it. Because you need to have people who'll go, yes, this is abhorrent enough to take this person's freedom. Policing might be the type of thing that, like the old idea behind the consuls for Rome. You know, the idea that we'll give it to you for 5 years and then that's it. You get another one. Maybe policing is something that everybody, once they get to their 30s or 40s, should have 5 years at. As payback to the community. We spent 12 years in school. Nobody says, well, you can't make me do that for 12 years, blah, blah, blah. You make kids do whatever. You can make adults do whatever too. There's national service, there's this, there's that. Maybe policing isn't a profession, or maybe there should be a professional class of bureaucrat-style police, the officer class, if you like, and the foot soldiers come and go, but without the entrenchment. And that officer class is itself, by legislation, open and transparent as shit. Just by which I mean very open and very transparent. Not literal shit. This is too much power for a group to police itself with to have. You know, they get to investigate themselves, decide who's going to be indicted, but for which crimes. And it's absolute silliness. I think we need to have a very solid look at what it means to have police. Obviously, there are specialist roles. There are technical roles. But my understanding is these are largely being outsourced to non-sworn personnel. So private contractors are replacing a lot of the forensic accounting, and a lot of the forensic services are done by forensic labs, which aren't actually police officers. A lot of the dog training work, which I have an ethical problem with employing dogs to take people's liberty, but whatever. Well, it's a talk for another day. But that actually isn't. That's exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. The idea that you would have dogs do that for you is really upsetting to me. I don't think that's a fair enough way to run your affairs, getting dogs to do that sort of thing. So they've been dicking around with the black community especially, but you know, all impoverished communities in general for so long that they've lost the trust of those communities. You know, when the police come to you, if the police came to my door right now, would I think it was for something positive? Would I think it was, oh, we need your help to solve a so-and-so? No. Have I committed any crimes recently except, you know, something a little bit green? No. Would I think that the police were here for a good thing? No. Obviously, when I say a good thing, I don't mean something positive to the entire community. I just mean something that isn't necessarily a negative to me. So something that wouldn't cause me specific harm. So, there's a rapist around the area. Have you seen anything? I don't think it'd be that. I think it'd be some bullshit. You know, some a-hole have reported me for some stupid violation of some non-law that I'm now in trouble for. That's the sort of thing that happened. So I don't think that the police have the community's trust. And I think that when people get angry enough and violent enough, and there's a narrative of hate being spewed forth, that the arm of the white oppressor is the blue oppressor, and that we need to rise up against the blue oppressor, and there are guns everywhere, what did you think would happen? Of course someone's going to get up a bell tower and start papping people off. The tools for it are laying around everywhere in America. It's like getting all upset when someone chops down a tree and makes a boat. You know, you do live in a forest and, god damn, it's good to fish. You know, we need to go over to that other island off this one. Anyways, I've extended that metaphor a bit far. But yeah, the big one I would say, when the cops decided in New York that they were only going to police the actually important events, it seemed like that was a reasonable step forward. They were going to enforce jaywalking and parking tickets and shit like that. Well, so we only need about 10% as many cops then, is that right? Because they're only doing like 10% of the job. What is all the rest of the shit for? Who gives a fuck if people jaywalk? When was I asked if I thought jaywalking was a good thing or a bad thing? Because I don't remember being asked if I thought jaywalking was a good thing or a bad thing. Because I happen to think jaywalking is a fucking good thing. I happen to think that as much as I drive cars, and I think they're a fantastic device, I think that we should be able to walk fairly unimpeded by people who want to go faster than us most of the time. In and around city centres and shops and traffic lights and things like that, I think that basically, if in doubt, the pedestrian should have right of way. I think that, they shouldn't be allowed to just come out of things and just start walking, but there should be pedestrian crossings on entire strips of things. So you need to just travel at a real snail's pace. Cars are the aberration. Cars are the weirdest thing in the world when you think about it. This power plant that burns petrol, that burns this juice, this refined shit, this oily crap we find in the Earth's crust. Like, did we make this a normal process in our brain that we can actually go, okay, so what we do is I'm going to head and we dig up this thing out of the Earth's surface, right? Now it's oily, it's nasty, you can't get it off your skin, right? We're going to get it in the thing, and at multiple different points it'll cool down, and the thing that cools down the bottom is the heavy, and the next one we'll call it fractional distillation, and the thing will come down, and then we'll use these ones, and this one here go into truck, and this one here it go into car, and up here it go into other stuff, and you put it in a pipe, and you have it in your gas, and what the fuck? That's crazy enough on its own. Then we start talking about we're going to carry a tank full of this around, right? We're going to have a little tractor thing. Right? We're going to turn this highly refined shit that you can buy for less than you pay for Coca-Cola to get you a kilometre up the road when you have perfectly working legs and you need to do exercise anyway. People will drive to the gym. People will drive to the gym. Like, what the fuck are you doing? I used to run to the gym when I was losing weight by the piss load. It's like, man, look. What are you doing? Why would you drive? Well, it's just stay at the gym less time and make the whole thing last less time. You run to the gym, you do a bit of the thing, and then you run home. Boom. Anyway. Yeah, so when was I asked whether or not I like jaywalking? As someone who, I've been hit by cars on foot twice. Never really badly. I'm hit by cars on motorbikes and stuff like that as well, but twice on foot. Both times, it was at an intersection, and I was crossing with the green light. I was crossing on a green man. I was perfectly within my rights to just cross without even looking. One time, a woman got right near me and was annoyed that I dared cross in front of her, and then pooped at me, deliberately pushed me over. And I cracked into her with my laptop, just not even thinking. I'm like, what the hell? Just cracked in her bonnet. Somebody saw the second half of it, called the cops and said, this crazy guy's in the city. And he's hit a car's bonnet with a laptop. So all these cops got on the tram I got on, the next tram I got on, and pulled me off it, arrested me. Well, didn't arrest me, but they had me, one handcuff or anything. I'm like, what are you doing? I actually managed to talk my way out of it. Side anecdote. The cop asked me to turn off my headphones, which were around my neck. When he was talking to me, he said, mate, do you mind turning those off while you talk to me, please? I'm like, certainly, yeah. Then after a little while, and I'd calmed down the entire conversation quite a bit, his radio went off, and I said, mate, do you mind turning that off while you talk to me? And he really wasn't happy. He didn't like that at all. Cops don't like that. But yeah, try and not be a smart ass to the cops. But I know it's you gotta do it sometimes, man. They have double standards. They think that their radio's worth having on, but yours isn't. I know that they're in communication and they're doing a job. But you know what? You're being paid for your time. Your time isn't worth shit to you anymore. Your time's been purchased by the state for this job. Okay, so don't talk to me about your time's worth this, your time's worth that. You've already sold yours. My time has infinite value. It's not for sale. Okay? To me, it's irreplaceable. Right? And I was listening to music, and you've taken some of my time. So yeah, I'm going to be a bit of a smart ass. But also I'd done nothing wrong. And as I said to them at the time, the CCTV all over this city. Why don't you go and look what happened? Why don't you go and have a look what happened? Here's my number. Here's my card. Here's who I am. If there's any further problems, please get in contact with me. And I never heard another word about it because they saw that I got hit by a car. Anyway, point is, that was about 8 of them as well. Another example of banana policing. Yeah. Look, so the long and the short of it is, policing is sold as an attractive-ish career because it's well paid. What I'd like to put out there is that it's a dangerous job, and when you factor in danger money, it is not well paid. The idea that they're, I mean, come on, these people get 14 weeks training and then they get their money, I think it might be more for police. I think the 14 weeks is the protective service in Victoria. I think it's 28 or something, which is still only 6 months, So after 6 months training, they're earning reasonable-ish wages with penalty rates and lots of overtime and all those sorts of things available. And then it goes up from there, based only on the amount of time they've been in service of the Victorian Police. So once you've been in the service for, I think it's 2 years or something, they have to promote you to the first stripe constable, I think. And then after 3, 4, 5 more years, you have to get the 2 stripes. And then after 5 more, you have to get the 2 and the leading senior constable, I think they call them. It's not like in the Marines, in the US Marines, where you get 2 goes, and if you don't get promoted on the second go, I think after the 3rd go, you get 2 tries, and on the 3rd try, if you don't get promoted, well, you're out. Not we'll just promote you anyway because you've been here so long, and we like you. We like having you around. You're an asset to the place. So there's not that. It's more meritocracy, more of a meritocracy. But yeah, some of the people I've known who wanted to get into it were a lot less poster boyish even than a checkout chick. I don't know. I've known a couple of people who are fairly loutish. One in particular who I don't even think about that much anymore. But he was in the army for quite a few years. He was a climbing buddy of mine, and he ended up as a cop. It's a funny old thing. I heard he did anyway. But yeah, so yeah, the point being that once we factor in that they get given this amount of training off the street, essentially, all you have to have is a clean record and no foot fungus. I think I'm not sure what the requirements are, but they're not terribly huge. There's no physical requirements or anything like that. I'm not sure that you need any advanced diplomas. So in general, that as I understand it, it's a low training job at which you just get to jam straight into the 65, 70 a year bracket, which that's not a hugely high paid area. But for 6 months training, that's insane. That is absolutely insane. So this is not a well paid job. The way it's told in America is it's not a well paid job, but I think we've forgotten that the danger is the reason it's not well paid. Not that it's just outright not well paid. It's not well paid for what you have to do. And it's not well paid for the person it makes you. Seems to be the narrative you hear from, at least from the cop movies, and from the former cops that I've seen interviewed around the place. So yeah, I would, long and the short, reiterate, it's dangerous. We're going to lose some cops every here and there. I think if we lost a few to heroism and putting their lives in danger before ours, you'd lose fewer, and probably by an equivalent number, of rioters shooting cops and people shooting cops in parked police cars in New York City and that sort of thing. Yeah. So I think an honest conversation about how we police, what it is to be a police officer, and whether or not a professional police officer should be the rank and file of policing. Whether or not, maybe even it's a reserve thing. Maybe we have a large chunk of community members who, once they reach a certain age and are prepared to do it, by which I mean I don't think 18-year-olds should be cops. I don't think it's the sort of career you should be able to start straight out of high school. And I'm pretty sure that they try and limit that as it is. They like you to have a bit of life experience. But I think that we need to have an honest conversation. The sooner we can do that, the better. Now, that brings us to the other big thing that happened this week, which is Nice and the attacks, dare I say, Israeli-style, West Bank-style attacks, not Israeli-style, but they happen to Israelis. The idea that once you disarm Islamic terrorists, and I use that term very deliberately, once you disarm Islamic terrorists, you of small arms, they'll go to the next most lethal things they can find, which is cars, or trucks in this case. This guy in particular had small arms and explosives in the truck. There have been reports, I'm pretty sure, that he shot people as he was driving through the crowd. Now, the scale of this is hard to really wrap your head around, and I'm not sure how much of the mainstream TV news coverage has had this, because I don't do TV news much, but what I've seen, it really hasn't exposed the scale of how far this truck went through this crowd of people. See, the problem with this is, if you see a person pointing a gun and they're not in a police uniform, you shit yourself and you do whatever they say. But when a truck is pointing at you, we have this inbuilt, that's fine, the truck will turn. Because they always do. Because you can walk in front of trucks. When that little green man says, walk, but there's a truck still coming at you, you walk. You trust the driver. Implicitly, every driver is trusted by every pedestrian who walks in front of them. Every other driver. Every time you go through a set of lights where there's, no one stopped there and people are coming and they will hit you if they choose not to stop or if they don't see that the light is red, you trust every single driver. Not just you trust their intentions, but you trust their abilities. So this one's even more hard to swallow than the ones with guns, in a way. They take an item which is not an unambiguously violent item. It's hard to say an AK-47 and that profile of one is anything other than violent imagery when you see it. Whether or not someone's brandishing it with an intent, just the sheer shape of the thing is and I'm sure this is culturally, it's a learned behavior probably. I don't think the thing is a significant trigger for anything in the amygdala or anything like that. That's like any eye face stuff or any arachnids or anything like that. I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's something we've learned, but it is absolutely a violent image in and of itself. But a truck is not. I mean, trucks when I was a kid was just benevolent items that my dad showed people how to drive around. And I mean, we've learned since that they cause terrible amounts of cancer, and we've learned all sorts of horrifying things about trucks and diesel engines. Well, I have anyway. I'm sure lots of people knew that when I thought they were benign. But to use one in such a way is just disgusting. I mean, these lives, it's 88 people now, I think, are dead, including quite a few kids. And I cried for them. I don't usually cry for terrorist stuff. I really don't. But I was thinking about people in the street that just on Bastille Day. I'm gonna go again, but on fucking Bastille Day, man. I don't know. Of all the places in the world, they've chosen France, not incidentally, not haphazardly. They've chosen France, and they've said why. They've said France because of the fraternity, the egalitarianism, and liberty. That's why. Because of France. Because of Bastille Day. Because of what it represents. And because of the fact that everything they want is the antithesis of everything that stands for. that incredible moment that kicked off that revolution there, it didn't really last. But that's not the point. It kicked it off. That real democracy, that good stuff, that every man, every citizen, la la la. Well, here we are, and they've attacked it again. They're not going to stop doing this. I don't know. I've already seen a video saying this man was not Islamic. Al-Jurani put out a video, and it came up on my newsfeed on Facebook, because I've got some fucking left-wing friends. I got some Palestinian-loving motherfucking Hamas-supporting motherfuckers in my fucking newsfeed. It's the most outrageous goddamn shit you've ever seen. They call me right-wing as shit. And that's fine, because compared to them, I am right-wing as shit. Because I think my way through these things, rather than just going, oh my god, stop using violence! Make me. That's the thing about the stop using violence thing. Make me. So you can convince me, and that's not convincing to just say stop. Or you can use someone who's going to use more violence to stop me from using violence. It always comes back to violence. When the left tells you not to be violent, it comes with the implicit threat of, or I'll get someone bigger than you to come and beat you up. Do that again, and I'll tell my dad who'll come and get you. That's childhood behavior. You know, my dad will come and beat up your dad. Well, it's absolutely absurd, isn't it? And I mean, this whole he's not Islamic. Okay, so this would actually ask us to believe. This guy suggests that he was drinking on Thursday night. Now, I'm assuming, because it just says Thursday night, this video, I'm assuming he means the Thursday night on which it happened, because otherwise it's a fairly arbitrary non sequitur of a thing to chuck into the story. That he was drinking alcohol in a bar on the night it happened, and that someone made fun of him for he's not going to be anything, and he's not going to become anything, and that he gave him I'll show you, I'll be something. With the video made it seem like it was some sort of retribution, some sort of, I'll show you who's not going to do anything. I'll find a truck and some explosives and some guns, and I'm going to do something. You'll know who I am. Come on, man. Al Jazeera, they don't have any bones to pick with infidels, do they? They're not run by any organizations who dislike apostasy or... No? They are? They are? Oh shit! I thought that they were totally unbiased. I thought only the Western the Western media were biased. I thought, oh shit! You mean that they've got their own biases as well? And that, wait, when they say shit like that, this has nothing to do with Islam, that might have something to do with that passage in the Quran that gives people the get out of jail free card that says they're allowed to basically not. They're allowed to say, I'm not even Islamic. What are you talking about? I'm not Muslim. No. I was on my knees pointing in that direction because I lost my watch on the beach. And yeah, I had a rug, and I said some stuff in Arabic because it helps me find my watch. And the rug stopped my knees from getting sandy while I was looking for it. And I kept looking up and down and up and down. What are you talking about? They're allowed to say that. They can lie to you and say they're not a Muslim, that what happened isn't anything to do with Islam. This is in the Quran. You're allowed to deny being a Muslim if it will further the cause of Islam. You guys don't even know what you're up against. You guys think this Islam, because it comes today as the cowering, huddled refugee, because it comes today begging for protection under hate speech laws, because today it comes weak and few in number, does not mean that the long-term plan is not to expand. Do we think it's a religion of peace because it truly is, or because if you just repeat a mantra enough, it's simply, I've heard it said, Islam is a religion of... You filled in the blank for you right there. You've heard it said how many times? Islam's a religion of peace. Islam's a religion of peace. Yeah, of course it is. There's a PC over there, and there's a PC over there, there's a piece up there, there's a PC over there. Okay, I heard that on Bill Maher. That's a Bill Maher joke. But yeah, look, I don't know how long it's going to be until we realize that not only is this, we can't say it's Islamic terrorism, what Sam Harris calls the narrative, and I'll get to that in a second. Not only are we being foolish in thinking that we can't mention it, they're allowed to not mention it, and they're allowed to deny it as well. So until you realize that, it's hard to make any sense of what you're seeing here. So now the narrative, what Sam Harris calls the narrative. In fighting ISIS, or resisting the spread of Islamic theocracy, more generally, we must at all costs avoid confirming the narrative of Islamic extremists. So the fear is that any focus on the religion of Islam or its adherents, like profiling at the TSA or intelligence gathering at mosques, or merely acknowledging that we are not at war with generic terrorism, but Islamic terrorism in particular, the fear is that this will drive many more Muslims into the arms of the jihadists, that they'll become jihadists because of this. But now, think about what's actually being alleged here. Think about the underlying horror and paranoia of this claim. Let's say, this isn't a perfect analogy, but it should work. You're a bald white man, right? And unhappily for you, there just happens to be a global insurgency of neo-Nazi skinheads that's just terrorizing 100 countries, right? Most white men are, of course, perfectly peaceful, but this insurgency has grown so widespread and so captivating to a minority of white men that no city on earth is safe. Bold white men have blown up planes and buses and burned embassies and even murdered innocent children by the hundreds, point blank, and we have now spent trillions of dollars trying to contain this damage. And many of these white men are seeking nuclear materials so they can detonate dirty bombs and even atomic ones. And to make matters worse, many of them are validly suicidal and therefore undeterrable. Now imagine what it would be like to hear presidents and prime ministers and newspaper columnists, and even your own fellow white bald men, expressing the fear that merely acknowledging the whiteness and boldness of neo-Nazi skinheads would so oppress and alienate other white bald men that they too would begin murdering innocent people. Okay, imagine being told that at all costs we can't confirm the narrative of neo-Nazis by acknowledging that white bald men festooned with swastikas pose a greater security interest than elderly Hawaiian women, for instance, or that any kind of focus on people who look like this could be so offensive that it will lead other white bald men to act out in this completely insane way. Now, this is either the most pessimistic and uncharitable thing ever said about a community, in this case, of the world's 1.6 billion Muslims, or it's true. Okay, now if it's the former, if it's just pure paranoia to be saying this, then we should stop saying it, right? But if it's the latter, right, if it's actually a legitimate fear that calling a spade here will drive some terrifying number of otherwise ordinary Muslims into the arms of theocrats, so these people will then be radicalized, they'll be calling for clitoridectomies for their daughters, or they'll be supporting people who throw gays from rooftops, well then we should be talking about nothing else. We should be obliging Muslims to talk about nothing else. This is the most bizarre, uncanny fact about our world at this moment, if true. So I think that sums up pretty much where we're at. And if anything, I just want to broaden the audience, as though it needed any such thing of Sam's words. But it comes up again and again. Imagine that all you had to be told was that someone like you had committed a crime, and that, look, unfortunately, we're going to have a look into this, and that you start committing that very same crime. Imagine being pulled over. Someone knocked on your door and said, someone around here matching your description last night who came back through this door, look, unfortunately, who was seen walking up your street, they look like you and they committed a crime. Could you give us a DNA sample? Yeah, sure. Knock yourself out. It's not me. Obviously, that's not the real answer. The real answer is, I would love to comply, but I am very careful, officer, and I'll have to speak to my lawyer. That's the right answer. But the point is, I just can't see any instance in which this narrative can be gotten past until people see it for what it is. And thanks again, Sam, for pointing out exactly what it is. But yeah, ideally, once you guys can start seeing it, you can start deconstructing it as well. It's so obvious, it's so everywhere. Islam can tell lies. It's like the cop. Islam is like the cops. once they arrest you and they've got you in the little room, they can lie to you. They can tell you, if you don't talk to us and tell us everything we need to know, we'll talk to the judge and you go away for twice as long. Dumb people believe that shit. Dumb people believe that the cops have any power like that. So what are you going to do? What are you actually supposed to do? It's a hard one, isn't it? Anyway, look, on this very odd week, a week with no battle bots, this has been the Free Speech Zone. I'm Ian Con. Yeah, try to keep your chin up, eh?